Hello and welcome to episode 259 of Level Up. 60 minutes of live Q&A where your questions drive the show. My name is Stephan and I'm going to be your host today. If you're watching on YouTube, you can find out more about what we do on our channel, so please give this video a like and subscribe to find out more about us. Several colleagues of mine are present in the social chat today, so please let them know your name and the city from where you're joining. They will post a link to vote up the questions that you would most like answered, and of course, for your own questions to add. If your question is selected during the show, your name will appear in the credits at the end. So get yours in early and stay with us to see exactly that happen. Today, we want to discuss how to build the perfect project team in 2024. This involves a mix of traditional strategies, innovative approaches to adapt the evolving workplace dynamics. If you prioritize diversity, collaboration, emotional intelligence, agility, learning, clarity, feedback, and adaptability correctly, you might be able to build a high-performing project team capable of delivering outstanding results. Let's discover how to leverage diverse skill sets, remote collaboration tools, and agile methodologies for success. Sounds interesting? Well, to help us out today, Level Up, we have a great panel. So let's jump in and meet them. Hello, panel. I'm going to start with Jessica Briggs-Sullivan. She is the ITSM program lead at Charles Schwab. A passionate IT professional, Jessica enjoys solving problems, improving processes, and helping create sustainable leading practice. Always focused on helping others, she enjoys making work fun and lifting up others. Welcome back to Level Up, Jessica, and hello to Phoenix, Arizona.
Hello, thanks for having me. Glad to be here. Just watching Game of Thrones earlier tonight, so hopefully nobody spoils that for me. Excited to hear about project management and listen to everybody's perspectives on that. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're very welcome, Jessica. I forgot to mention that this is a panel that's really around the world, almost on every continent, while I think I'm the only one actually coming from the continent of Europe. Well, anyway, we have Malini Jayaganesh with us. She's a strategic advisor and coach at ITSM Hub and director for the Business Relationship Management Institute, or has been a director. With a lifelong purpose to elevate others, Malini has championed diversity and inclusion throughout her professional life. Usually joining us from Melbourne, she's now in the town of Coimbatore in India. Hello, Malini.
Hello, Stephan. You pronounced Coimbatore like a local, so well done.
Oh, thanks for that.
And welcome to all our viewers from around the world. What a great topic we have today.
Yeah, thanks, Malini. Also joining is Melissa Subban. She's a people strategist at the HappyFactory, where as the founder, she has built a high-performing team around the delivery of organizational agility and agile change management. Carving out her own path, Melissa sets the tone with her team and her clients. And Melissa is joining us from Johannesburg in South Africa. Hello, Melissa.
Hi, I'm really excited to be here. And this is one of those topics that's really close to my heart when it comes to people problems, and team dynamics.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Melissa. Also from South Africa, from Johannesburg, is Etienne Shardlow. He's the CEO of Symphonise Consulting, where he focuses on consulting and training services from his base. Working with government and private sectors on digital transformation projects, Etienne delivers great value to every client. Hello, welcome back, Etienne.
It's very good to be back. And again, a topic that is really close to my heart. You know, none of these things that we try to achieve happens without good teams. So really excited to be here.
Yeah, thanks, Etienne. And completing our panel of experts today is Paul Sutton. He's the senior trainer and lead consultant for project results and non-such training. From business case to benefits realization, Paul ensures that his clients fully understand how to get the very best from their people, processes, and technologies using advanced facilitation techniques. Paul is joining us from Wellington in New Zealand. Hello, Paul.
Hello there. Well, New Zealand isn't a continent, but I guess we are in Oceania, and sort of we complete the loop in terms of covering the whole world. It's fantastic to be here, and having worked in projects, and it's all creating something out of nothing, and then producing a high-performing team. It's a subject which is near and dear to my heart.
Ah, very good. Everybody is very committed, as you can hear, guys, about this topic we have today. Now, our show is all driven by questions. So we need someone to manage these questions. And the question master today is Suchitra Jacob, who joins us from the garden city of Bangalore in India. Hello,
Hi,
Suchitra.
Stephan. Yeah, hello, Stephan, and the panelists. We truly have a global panel. And of course, I'm sure we'll have a global audience as well watching. So I can't wait to ask questions for today.
Yeah, right. And why don't we just start with the first question, Suchitra?
Of course, we can. So our first question is from Olivia Gary, who asks, how has the rise of remote and hybrid work environments impacted team dynamics and productivity?
Okay, how has the rise of remote and hybrid? Oh, okay, I can see the panel is keen to answer. I think there was Malini first, followed by Etienne.
Thank you, Stephan. This is a really interesting question. I think remote and hybrid working has certainly brought a lot of advantages. So we are no longer limited to forming a team based on who is actually physically present and can be put together. So in that sense, it opens the door to create virtual teams, that have the best skill set and to have the most diverse group of people that you can for a project. At the same time, though, it has. I won't necessarily say that remote and hybrid working introduces entirely new challenges. But it certainly exacerbates some of the challenges that we experience in teamwork. For example, things like building trust, connecting with each other, making sure that there's transparency so that everyone understands what each other is doing. These are all challenges even for teams that are physically co-located. So when you're working with people, who are, virtual environment, these challenges take on a completely different nuance. Of course, these can be addressed, and I'm sure we will talk about that over the course of the show.
Yeah, probably will. I think this all tends to the psychological safety term as well, because I think that's what people need. But let's next hear from Etienne.
I think one of the biggest impacts that remote and hybrid working has had on teams has been the introduction of a whole load of new tools. And so we're having to, as project team members, learn how to use a whole load of new tools to help us collaborate and communicate. And, we don't have our team boards and our project plans up on the wall in the office anymore. We've now got to log in to view these things online. And the tools are getting better, there's nothing like a crisis to help us invent new tools, new solutions. And so there's lots of new things for us as team members to learn. And I think that's, that for me is one of the big impacts, is the number of new solutions out there that can help build better teams.
All right. Yeah, thanks, Etienne. And let's hear next from Melissa.
Thanks, Stephan. So to your point on psychological safety, I'd like to just touch on that. I found that with the rise of remote work, you have a lot of people that have moved or changed behaviors because you've got to now hold people accountable. And how do you actually hold people accountable? When you're in the office or when you are, in front of someone, it's easy to just walk up to their desk. But now you've got to call someone, get into a meeting. And I found that a lot of people have increased the number of meetings, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you've actually have value in those meetings, and that it's actually shared value. So I think that's really important when we think about behaviors, is how do we hold people accountable in a respectful manner, so that people feel psychologically safe to say things are not working, or I need help with something, as well as looking at what do we actually talk about in the meetings, and is it value adding?
Yeah, right. Isn't that it like you have to show more visibility and to increase the number of meetings as a KPI, which of course I think is complete nonsense. But anyway, no, thanks for that. And let's hear last from Paul then.
Yes, I think that we often think it's quite difficult, but I worked with a team that during COVID found that they were more productive, and then post-COVID they carried on working virtually. Suited everybody, and they were more productive. So often you can end up with a more productive environment depending on what you're trying to do.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, thanks. And I hope, Olivia, Gary, that has given you some perspectives on that question and helps you with building your team. And I think, Suchitra, we can just go to the next question, right?
Sure. So leading on, we have another question from Kevin Frank, who asks, what are the best practices for fostering collaboration and communication within a project team?
All right. I see Jessica and Etienne want to answer that. Jessica, why don't you go first?
All right. So I think best practice is establish clear communication channels first and foremost, and then regular touch points for vital collaboration. I also personally like team approaches on getting tasks or efforts done. No person working alone is working alone, but they have a support team to help them get initiatives done. I know it's not always possible. A lot of times you divvy out tasks and give them to the to the lead or the person or the SME that's responsible for it. But that collaboration makes people feel like they're part of something bigger. And then also look for opportunities to divide and conquer. So if you can have a group work on multiple tasks together, they might be able to actually get things done in a more cohesive and faster fashion.
Oh, yeah. Thanks, Jessica. And let's hear next from Etienne.
Yeah, touching on some of Jessica's points as well, something I like to try and use to foster collaboration is to make sure that I always have metrics and measurements can only be achieved through collaboration. So you kind of drive collaboration by measuring the right stuff. Another point that I want to make very quickly as well is Jessica also spoke about touch points. I think we can learn quite a lot, no matter how we're running our project. There's lots of tools and techniques we use in Scrum and Agile that can be very useful on any project. Things like a daily stand-up and these regular little communication points that make communication happen regularly and frequently without feeling like work.
Good point. Thanks, Etienne. Good point. We have Paul next.
Oh, me?
Yeah, you.
No, me. Thank you. I think we need to have some quite standard. We need to have some processes for communication because people need to know where things are and how we're going to communicate with each other, but also regular forums for working together and regular processes for working together. If we've got a new team, they've got to work out how they're going to work together if they haven't done it, and so we've got to create forums for doing this. And actually working on some tasks and getting stuff done is really important. And then doing some kind of retrospective to work out how they can become more and more efficient, depending on the technology that they're using. We're not doing face-to-face or virtual.
All right. Thanks, Paul. And Melissa, what's your view?
So I'd like to add to what the panel has said and talk a little bit about, knowing what the mountain looks like, understanding what the goal looks like. And for people to collaborate, they all need to know where they're going. And then looking at incremental steps and measuring the little milestones along the way, understanding where everybody is at any given point in time. And then when we have meetings, for me is really important is to look at what value is being brought to the table. So almost a giver's gain philosophy. What do I bring to the table? And if each person that's in that meeting understands and accepts the value that they bring to the table, you'll have a lot more collaboration, because people won't be feeling like, oh, that one person is doing too much, or that person's not adding any value to the team, which generally, creates a lot of animosity within teams and problems. So yeah, that's my suggestions.
All right, thank you very much, Melissa. And Malini, your view, please.
So picking up on what Melissa has just said, part of that mountain, I think, is also about getting the team to understand what's the purpose. Why are we actually here? Why is there a need for us to come together and collaborate? And creating an environment within the team that is respectful, that people feel safe. We mentioned psychological safety earlier, that people feel it's okay to make mistakes, it's okay to learn and grow as a team, and also to accept that we are not all the same. There is all forms of diversity, not just in gender and culture, but also different preferences in terms of how we like to communicate, when we like to communicate, and getting to understand all this and negotiating with each other and arriving on what works best for everyone. I think that's actually a very important conversation to have, instead of assuming that we have all these tools and everybody will just use them, but actually being a bit more purposeful in figuring out what communication do we need, what preferences do different people have, and how do we actually make this work for us.
Yeah, well, thanks, Malini. I can't agree more on being more purpose-driven. I think we should do things on purpose and not by whatever drives us there. Many thanks for that. Just for our audience, please look if you can challenge our panelists with your questions in the next couple of minutes, because we will always prioritize questions that come from a live audience. All the other questions have been submitted before, because you could find a link and it will be open to you. But if there's something that pops to your mind, you think, yeah, I want to hear that from the panel, this is your chance to put it in the chat and we will pick it up immediately. Thank you very much. And hopefully we get some coming in from you and from the audience. Until then, Suchitra, can we please go to the next question?
The next question is from Ryan. What are some of the key roles which are a must-have as part of the team?
Okay, the must-have. So, yeah, I think that is quite a fair question. And Melissa will kick us off here, and then followed by Jessica and Etienne.
Thanks, Stephan. So for me, I think what's really important when I see the landscape of projects and project teams, also the rise of Agile and adoption of Agile within teams, I'm going to have to say that the people component in terms of change management is really important. I see the decline in some industries, and I really believe that that's something that is really important, because it sort of helps everybody gel together. It helps you collaborate with your customers better, with all of your stakeholders, and actually makes a success of what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, absolutely. And, thanks, Melissa. And Jessica, what's your view?
Yeah, Melissa, I love what you just said. I think that's great. I mean, just going back to project management 101, you need your project managers, project sponsors. Having a business analyst helps. Depending on what the scope of your project is, I think that's really important. I would start with your strategy and your scope before deciding what roles you definitely need on your project. Once you figure that out, like, you don't necessarily need a technical lead or an architect if you're working on a project that's around process, right? So So saying that you need that on every project is just not correct. So nowadays with Agile again coming into play, Scrum Masters, product owners, again, change management is huge. And then having a good understanding of who your stakeholders are, who are you providing this project effort for, so that you have good communication with them, so that ultimately you're successful to their key performance indicators.
Yeah. Thanks, Jessica. Yeah, I agree with you. Change management is probably most underestimated in these circumstances, but it shouldn't be underestimated. It should always be very present. Yeah. Etienne, what's your view?
Yeah, some really good points. And I think change management is often underestimated. I just want to bring in the idea of having a coach. I think all good sports teams, we recognize the need to have a coach, but how often do we have a coach on a project team? And I think, these days where our project teams are expected to work so quickly, I think it's really important that we have someone who acts as coach. So not necessarily involved in the work, but standing on the side of the team, keeping an eye on the bigger picture, helping the team see the forest for the trees, or seeing the forest past the trees. Sometimes when you're too involved in the work, you forget about the bigger picture. Sometimes you need someone to kind of remind you the direction we're going in, remind you of the kind of shared goals of the team, kind of keep you on the right track, help you run when hurdles arise, maybe take them away and get them resolved so you can get on with more value-adding work. I think a good coach on a project team is almost essential these days.
Oh, I can't agree more, Etienne. We currently have the Euro football tournament in Europe, as you know, and you can tell the difference a coach makes. The traditionally favorite teams that back out and others that just move on. And it's all very often down to the coach forming a team, giving direction. So you can see that even in football. Thank you very much. Melissa, you wanted to add something.
Yeah, I think Etienne sparked something for me. I think what's also really important in any project is to have a sponsor role. And for me, when you talk about a coach, having that mentor that comes in, that looks at things from a different perspective, that sponsors the project and understands, where the organization or how everything sort of fits together from a strategic perspective. So I think I would add on making sure that there's a proper project sponsor in place and that they play that mentoring role together, with a coaching facility that you would have.
Yeah. Well, thanks, panel. And Ryan, I think you got some really good points made by the panel about what the key roles are, must-haves of a team. And I think, Suchitra, probably happy to move on to the next question.
The next question is from Etienne. We often aim to build cross-functional teams. How important is diversity in a project team?
Yeah, okay. Etienne, I will come to you last. But I want to start with Malini then first.
Etienne, the short answer is it is critical. I do not think you can actually have a project team that's worth anything without having diversity in it. And diversity, of course, can be of many different types. So, not just the more well recognized forms of diversity, such as gender and culture, but also diversity in thinking styles. I think it was Einstein who said that if we apply the same type of thinking to the problems that we are facing today, we'll never come up with solutions. So you want people who will who will be able to see a problem or see opportunities from different perspectives, so that we can actually get to better outcomes. This might, of course, lead to some conflict, but not all conflict is bad, right? And so different is not necessarily dangerous or a threat. It can actually be your competitive advantage.
All right. Thanks, Malini. And we come to Paul next.
Thank you. Yes. Well, I think it's diversity is a couple of things. One is you need to represent your stakeholders. So some kind of diversity represents the stakeholders that you're building or developing something for is really good. The second thing is diversity of skills, because there's something that you might be good at that someone else isn't, or something that someone else is good at that you're not. And if you can have this team working together with lots of diverse skills, you're going to get a lot of productivity out of it. Whereas if you've got lots of clones that all look the same, you're going to be good at one thing, but not all the other.
Mm-hmm. Many thanks, Paul. Melissa.
So I'll add on to what Paul and Malini has said in terms of diverse teams and skills, and bringing different perspectives in. You know, people all look at the same problem differently, and we look at the problem with these lenses, which we call personality. And when we have different personalities, we also have different engagement styles. So for me, I think, you know, bringing in that kind of diversity into a team enables you to build a better product, to build a better service, and essentially, you know, think of things that you haven't really thought of, or, you know, people raise problems that hasn't really, you know, been considered before. So for me, I would add in, you know, just bringing in different kinds of people in terms of personality, the way they like to engage, the way they like to learn, and the way they like to think.
Mm-hmm. Thanks. Many thanks, Melissa. Now, Etienne, you brought up this question. May I ask why?
I brought this question up because I think it is such an important aspect of team dynamics. I think it's really important that we have a diversity of people on every team. We very rarely build products or services for a homogenous group of people, especially if we're going public with a product or a service. You know, our customer is going to be diverse. And so I think it's really important that we are able to, as the project team delivering a product or a service, or creating a product or service, that we're able to look at things from different perspectives, different angles. Also, you know, Paul mentioned clones. You know, you don't want a team that might as well be an individual. You know, what makes a team powerful is the fact that you have multiple people with multiple personalities, multiple views, multiple perspectives, you know, working together on something. And you know, I think it's something we often just underestimate the value of, and that is why I wanted to raise the question.
Yeah, and thanks, Etienne. And I think the panel pretty much agreed on that. You can see that. All right. Well then, Suchitra, let's move on.
Our next question is from Sarah in the UK. If project tasks are assigned on a skills knowledge basis, would this prevent growth for other team members, resulting in a stagnant skills team?
All right. I think if I just look at the question we were talking about before in diversity, that might have a link to that. So I think, Etienne, you go first and then followed by Jessica.
Yeah, so I think it's really important that the whole point, one of the main points of having a cross-functional team is not just so that you've got all of the skills that you need to get the work done on your team, but also so that you can cross-skill and build each other. And so I think it's really important that when tasks are assigned, we assign joint tasks to one or two, you know, instead of assigning tasks to individuals, assign tasks to, you know, two or more people so that they can work together on something so that you can build these skills. You know, you don't want your subject matter expert in one area to be the only person with that knowledge and that skill. And so one of the main reasons why we want cross-functionality on teams is so that we can learn from each other. And so by assigning tasks to a group of people, assigning tasks to more than one person, you know, a lead and maybe a junior, you can help to get those skills spread across the team and make your team better as it moves on to the next increment or even to the next project.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. And Jessica, what do you think about skills knowledge base?
Yeah, I agree. It can cause stagnancy. If I'm put on a project and I'm doing the same exact thing on 10 different projects in a year, I'm going to hate my job. So allowing people to spread themselves, to step into things that they haven't done before, to learn. And when you think about a big risk in managing projects nowadays is resource management. A lot of times it's hard to get your project team staffed up, and it causes delays and and time constraints. So with that, I follow your sentiment of bring on those junior people that want to learn, those people that are hungry to grow in their roles, and teach them so that you can get the project done, and you're also helping build out your next project team for your next adventure. So yeah, agreed.
Yeah, great. Okay, thanks. Melissa, I think you're next.
Thanks. So I'd like to add in another perspective to build on what Jessica said. So when we look at the skill level or the experience levels within the team, you might want to keep people on a particular skill so that they can hone it, and then move people on or get other people in the team that are slightly more experienced to try new things and to enhance their skills. So doing a skills audit or having some kind of skills audit of the people within your team is really important, because then you understand, what it is that you're doing. And then when we think of technology and the exponentiality of technology and the technological advancements that we have, one of the future skills, or the skill of the future human, is going to be, or is, continuous self-learning. So I think even if you have a skill now, that skill might change in the next year to 5 years. So that in itself might also, have to be taken into consideration when you're looking at what your skills knowledge base is. Having said that, I think the new buzzword in teams at the moment in organizational and design is matrix structures. So to what Etienne has said earlier, having multiple people responsible for one particular task helps with making sure that everybody gets upskilled and gets that experience that's required.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks. Thanks for that. Also for that insight. Thank you. And we go into Paul then.
Yes, thank you, team. I think you've covered a lot of the ideas. I think the trade-off here is the person who can do it the quickest, but then you end up with sort of a mono-skill situation where the same person gets to do the stuff all the time, or where you spread the workload and get people working together and learning off each other, and you build the capability. And it depends on what you want to do. If you want to build the capability and leave the organization in a better state, then you need to spread the skills. And sometimes if you do it cleverly, you can end up with a highly productive situation in any case.
Mm-hmm. Right. Thanks, Paul. And Malini.
Just building on point made by Melissa, the World Economic Forum released the Future of Jobs report last year. And in that, they said that 44% of core workers' skills, are expected to change within the next 5 years. And one of the top 10 skills for people to be future ready is curiosity and lifelong learning. So I think it's really important for organizations as part of their workplace culture to actually bring in, learning agility. And my fellow panelists have talked about some of the ways of doing that. But fundamentally, I think we need to make everyone understand that there's no end date to learning. This is something that we have to continuously engage in. And sometimes, people are actually a bit hesitant to share their skills with others because they feel this is something that is unique to me, and they attach their sense of self-worth or value to the organization in that. And they need to be made to understand how how their contribution to the organization's learning culture can actually pave the way to their own career growth. There needs to be some incentives provided to people to share their knowledge and skills. Likewise, we also need to encourage people to learn. Not everyone is actually interested in learning. There are people who are in their comfort zone and they sort of go, I don't really need to learn anything new. We need to encourage them and open their mind up to the possibilities, for their careers, not just for career growth, but even for, with AI, for example, a lot of jobs are going to change in a very, very definite way over the next few years. So, something that we are comfortable in, a comfort zone, is no longer going to be a comfort zone, in a few years. So upskilling ourselves is a core necessity.
Yeah, Malini, there's no end date to learning. I picked that also up from you. That's very good. A great statement. Yeah, thanks, panel. And Sarah, I hope, well, I'm sure you got some significant perspectives for your question, and we might just jump into the next one.
The next question is from Rohit. Can the panel suggest some tools and platforms for better team communication and collaboration?
Yeah, which in particular becomes more important the more you're going on hybrid and remote situations. So, yeah, panel, what do you think? Can you recommend something to and answer the question? Melissa, why don't we start?
So I think what I found to be really helpful when people are doing projects as well as collaborating just in meetings is Miro. There's tons of free, boards that people can use. It is an online team. Online tool, and then if you want to do the face-to-face version, a Kanban board, a whiteboard, and stickies. Sticky notes are my the thing that I always travel with. So I can't do without a post-it or a sticky note. And then I would think, what's really important as a tool and something that I use when it comes to building teams and helping people collaborate better from an organizational culture perspective is looking at your personal and team values. And there's a really, I think we can post a link in the webinar for people to download this. There is a free tool that people can use where there's tons of personal values for people to choose from, and just having, your top 5 personal values and sharing it with people, because what's important to me might not necessarily be important to you or the next person in the team. And just understanding what that is within the team space helps people collaborate better, helps people understand each other better, and then also aligning it to what the team goals needs to be or the team values needs to be. So we'll post that in the chat for people to have a look at and use, and I think that's really important when you are building out a team.
Yeah, thanks, Melissa. And there was just a code for Miro displayed, so make sure that you also find this in the chat of this show. Let's go to Malini and hear from her.
Rohit, you've asked a really interesting question, because my view is, when someone tells me, our team struggles to collaborate because we don't have the right tools available, I tend to be a bit skeptical, right? Because when you look at human beings over the ages, we were communicating long before, technology was available to us. So, whether it's smoke signals or drums or whatever, when we have a purpose to that communication, and we have a desire to communicate, we'll find ways to do it. So I would actually say, consider, before you actually think about tools and platforms, make a list, like you can workshop this with your team. What are our communication and collaboration needs? And then you sort of find tools to fit the purpose for each of those needs. So for brainstorming, right, and for collective working and brainstorming, like Melissa, I like Miro. I find it incredibly useful because I'm also a sticky note person. And I'm sure between us, we've been keeping the 3M company in business for over a decade. But I know Teams also has, Microsoft Teams also has an add-on available where you can have a virtual Kanban with sticky notes as well.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks, Malini. And I think we go next to Jessica, right?
Yeah, I share Malini's sentiment on this. The tool doesn't matter. You need to have, the right methodology, the right framework, the right headspace in there so that you can have a team that communicates and collaborates together. One of the tools that we use is not a virtual tool, but a technology tool is something called The Way We Work. It's really understanding how do the different people on your team work the best, right? What are the hours that they're up? I have colleagues in India who actually work the night shift so that they can work with their U.S. counterparts. So understanding that, and then I have people that prefer to meet in person. I have teams that prefer to meet over the phone. So understanding how all of those team members can come together and bring out the best is almost more important than what your physical technology is. So once you figure out how people work, then you can figure out which tool works best for getting the project done.
Yeah, thanks. So, yeah, very good insights about tools. And I think with considering the time, I would immediately move to the next question, Suchitra, if that's possible.
Just one moment.
Do we have a live question in the meantime?
We do have a live question. So we have a live question from Matthew Harris. What if key team members are not motivated or start losing interest in the project? How can this be handled?
Yeah, it's probably not just a problem of 2024, but it might be differently in 2024. Yeah, so don't know who started. I missed. I think Malini was first. Maybe I saw her hand first, and then we go next to Etienne, Paul, and then Jessica, and then Melissa.
Thank you, Stephan. I think the starting point for me would be to understand why are people losing motivation. Because you mentioned, people starting to lose interest. So perhaps they had interest at the start of the project and then they started losing. Is it because they feel, they're not being respected or their views are not, their contributions are not being valued? It's really important to keep an open mind and conduct an investigation into this. And the results or the answers that you find should pave the way forward how to address it.
Thanks, Malini. And let's hear from Etienne.
Malini, you stole words right out of my mouth. I think it really is important that we understand why there's the lack of motivation. And it brings me back to something Jessica said earlier about, if you aren't allowed to grow, or you don't have the opportunity to grow and try new things in a project, if you're stuck doing the same thing because you're the expert all the time, you will lose interest. So I think the first thing you need to do is figure out why. So maybe it is that you're just not, you're tired of doing the same work over and over. Maybe you aren't a good fit for this project. Maybe you don't identify with the goal or the purpose of the project. And if the project isn't something that you think is worth doing or isn't going to add value to the organization or to yourself, you're not going to be committed to the team. And so I think the first point will always be to figure out why. And then you can take next steps to see, is there something that you can do, or maybe is this person just not a good fit for this project? Maybe if they can't identify with the project's purpose, maybe they're not the right person for this team. And that's not a bad thing. Find another project for that person. We don't always have to let the person go. Find something else that they can contribute to.
It could also be that maybe the team has some atmospheric disturbances or distractions, right? So not just the individual. But thanks, Etienne. I would like to hear from Paul next.
Yes, I mean, some of this comes back to, Management 101, which we've been doing for, years, decades, centuries. How do you motivate people? What happens if people are unmotivated? It could be that it's the wrong fit for them, that they're in the wrong place. And, if we're going to do it right, we might find them something that's better. It might be, as Etienne said, there's a team dynamics issue, which is actually affecting them, and we have to have a look at it. There might be some ways that the work is structured, which is quite difficult. We may put them into a job that's actually too difficult for them. And so look at, areas of support, coaching, how can we make it easier for you to perform? So I think look underneath, see what's going on.
Thanks, Paul. And Jessica, let's hear from you.
Sure. I was just going to say, don't ever underestimate the power of a phone call or having a one-on-one with that person. If they're burned out or dealing with things that are, outside of your project, it may be worth your time to get down again to the why. If if they feel like you care and that you're engaged with them, that may be, half of the battle solved. And the other half is trying to figure out how to solve the actual problem of the burnout or, them having too much on their plate for the project. So, but yeah, I have had to have team members removed from projects just because it was, they weren't a good fit for the rest of the team to actually get work done with. And that's, again, an okay thing to happen.
All right. Thanks, Jessica and Melissa. If you would close that.
Sure.
Question.
So we all know now that we need to find out why. I think I'll add on to the how. And as Jessica mentioned, a phone call, if there are specific people that are not feeling motivated or not contributing as they should. But another way that you could do this is focus groups, or just in a team meeting, start out at every team meeting by, asking everybody how they're feeling and what kind of, maybe post an emoji in the chat of what you're actually feeling for the day. And you kind of get a really nice, synopsis of how people are feeling in the team. And then looking at, is this an external problem or is it an internal problem? Sometimes we've got to look at ourselves if we're leaders of a team. Maybe we're the problem, and that we need to look at it. I've been a change manager for various projects across industries. And, when it comes to people problems, we must first look at ourselves, the person that's experiencing this lack of motivation, because it could be everybody else is collaborating wonderfully and the person that's raising the issue might not be, which brings me to the environment. So when you're thinking about the how, also look at what kind of environment you're in and how people engage within that environment. So that would be my contribution.
Thanks, panel, for this question. We come to our last question today. I think that's a live question. Suchitra, please.
Yes, it is a live question that's just come in. It's from Lawal Aminu Bala. What are factors leading to failure of team to deliver results even while there are clear KPIs? Is diversity and inclusion important in making a good project team?
Yeah, I think we touched base on some of parts of that question already, but I would like to have very short answers from you, panel. So who wants to go first on that one? Yeah, it's Melissa. It's always a challenge when there's a live question. They have little to prepare for that, but Melissa, please kick us off here.
I think personalities are really important, clashing of how people engage with each other. Values, again, I'm going to bring that down to values and behaviors, because if you're not aligned, and you don't have your heart in it, you're never going to want to even fix the problems if there are. And then, in corporates, I usually find bureaucracy is quite a challenge, the internal office politics. And then it comes down to values, behaviors, and how we clear those blockers and engage internally.
Yeah, thanks, Melissa, and let's hear from Etienne.
Yeah, so Melissa raised the kind of cultural dynamics and the team values and things, but and I think a lot of the time that will be a huge contributor, but it may also be, even with clear KPIs, do we have the knowledge that we need on the team to get the work done? Do we have the tools that we need to get the work done? Sometimes the goals are clear, but we just don't have a clear path to achieve them.
Thanks, Etienne. And Jessica, please close this question for us.
Sure. One of the things that we haven't talked about at all today is definition of done. What does done look like? What does our finished product look like? If that's not a shared understanding across your project team, and also delivered on each and every project task, then you may not come to the same result as you were hoping.
Yeah. Thanks, Jessica. So yeah, done. What's done? What's the definition of done? We're not done yet. But I would like to come to our closing remarks for the panel. First of all, thanks to everyone who contributed a question, and of course to the panel for answering them. But it's now time to give the last word to the panel for some closing remarks. And I would like to start with Paul.
Well, it's been fantastic to be with the team and have those fantastic questions. I think that there is a lot of thinking that we need to have in terms of building a team, whether or not we're actually working in a virtual environment or a physical environment, whether or not what the skill levels of the team is, and representing our stakeholders to make sure we got a balanced view. And sometimes a bit of an application of good old-fashioned management is a good idea as well.
Thanks, Paul. Next is Etienne, and Etienne, I would like to thank you for stepping in on very short notice because of the apologies of another panelist today. So what's your closing remark, please?
Well, it is good to be here. I think team dynamics can always be really good, but team dynamics can also be difficult. And I think it's important that when we're building a team, as someone who's coaching, guiding, leading a team, that we pay attention to the individuals that make up that team. And as much as we're individuals, the thing that makes us a team is a common goal, a common purpose. To make sure that that is clear.
Yeah, thanks, Etienne. And Melissa, what are your closing remarks?
Well, building a team is like cooking a great pot of food, a great curry. You can either have lots of spices that you just chuck in and it doesn't really work well together, or you can have a well-balanced meal if you use all the skills in your team properly, So for me, I think, really important to look at the personalities within the team, values, behaviors, and to know what the mountain looks like. Because if we all don't know where we're going, we're gonna end up at a stream and not really at the top of the mountain.
Very nice metaphors being used, right? Okay, and Malini, let's hear from you.
Thank you very much for having me on the show. A great conversation as usual. I think what I'd like to share from my experience is that great teams do not happen by accident. If they do, then it's a miracle, right? And it's an exception. We really need to put a lot of thought and effort to nurture great teams. And once you have a great culture within the team, it takes just as much effort to sustain it, right? So a key takeaway I think for our viewers, is all the tips from the panel on how to create and sustain great team cultures.
Yeah, and I agree, absolutely agree. And then it makes the day of the team every day and of the project manager. Lots of benefits coming from great teams for whatever purpose. Okay, let's hear from Jessica, closing remarks.
All right, thank you again for having me. Just to mention, I did start a position recently at Amazon and recently left Charles Schwab. So shout out to all those Charles Schwab people, as well as my new Amazon teammates. And I just wanted to quote Helen Keller and say, a bend in the road is not the end of the road unless you fail to make the turn. So remember to have fun, listen, be creative, stay engaged, and help people to grow in your project management journey. And have a good time while you're in there.
Yeah, thanks. And thanks. Well, we appreciate having you here on APMG's show. So thanks for coming. Thanks for, on behalf of the audience, thanks for giving all your expertise and your insights to answering these questions. Suchitra, what do you think? What a great team this was today, right?
Of course, Stephan, couldn't agree more. Great panel, and of course, some great questions. And our viewers, of course, this show would be incomplete without you. So thank you once again.
Yeah, right. Well done, everyone. Now, this was part 1, and that implies that there will be a part 2 on this topic, and that's very often because we can't cover all questions within 1 hour, and there were more questions on the list than we could cover today, but very thankful for that. If you're interested in what questions have been covered in the past, you can go to our website and you can search for answers to your questions. And I think there are more than 2,300 questions in there, plus the number of answers, depending on the number of panelists you can imagine. And it's a free resource. And it's connecting you with experts from around the world. By the way, if you prefer audio because you want to listen to the show in the car, you can listen to it on your preferred podcast platform. We're almost everywhere. And what's coming up next? Looking ahead, this Friday at what is it? I think it's 1400 UK time. We will continue with part 2 of a previous event called How to Become a Change Manager in 2024. And Monday, the 8th of July, at 8 a.m. UK time, we will dive into your must-have project management templates in 2024, part 1. And there will always be part 2 or 3. We are all looking forward welcoming you on the upcoming shows again. Just ask, and we will send you a personal summary of what's coming up and how you too can join us here on the panel and level up your career with APMG. Once again, please give this video a like and subscribe. It will help other folks to learn from us, and you won't miss any of the upcoming shows. We're going to take a little break over August with Level Up, and we'll return with a great new look in September. Just ask and we will send you a personal summary of what's coming up. Thanks, everyone, and see you on the next show.